part of it. So I'm like, I want to do jobs. Of course, I want to be paid and things, but I want to do something that serves people.
Yeah.
That serves not just their business, but them as the individual. Because I'm a very, every time I encounter somebody or meet somebody, I feel like I want to leave them with something. I want to pour into them. I don't know. I'm just all about people just being the best version of themselves.
What's up? It's Adam Carendang back with another episode of Novelty Growth Voice. We are here with a special guest tonight, Tahlia L'Oreal. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Adam. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have this talk with you.
Yes.
So real quick, Novelty Voice, it's a platform for creative entrepreneurs and young professionals to be heard. You know, our goal is to interview dope, up-and-coming movers and doers here in the city, get to know them more on a personal level, uncovering their journey, their mindset, and their vision for what they're doing.
Right.
Tahlia, you have a lot going on. You're a host, an actress, a model, president of your media consulting company.
Yes.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Evansville, Indiana, which is a southern town about 3 hours south of here.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a kind of small town. Yeah.
And then, so growing up, did you have siblings? What was life like growing up?
Growing up, I was the middle child of 4 siblings at the time. I have a younger brother now. He'll be 16 actually in a couple days. So yeah, it was definitely one of those things where I had a sister that was like 6 years older than me, so I wasn't cool enough and old enough to hang out with her yet. And then I had 2 little brothers that didn't want anything to do with me. So I kind of had to make up my own fun and imaginary friends and just find creative ways to entertain myself.
So what'd you do for hobbies or?
So for hobbies, I think the first one of my things I really love to do was read. I was reading and writing at a very young age. R.L. Stine was my favorite author. I don't know if y'all remember him. Remember the Goosebumps book?
Yeah, I do.
Yes,
Okay.
I used to read one of those a day sometimes, and then I used to write a lot. Then I got into playing sports and dance and performing arts probably about 4th or 5th grade. So I did some of that as well.
So when did you start reading? What age?
So I was reading probably at the age of probably about 4 or 5. I remember my mother telling me that I was writing in cursive probably around that time too. Really? They don't even teach cursive anymore. Do you know that?
You were just out there.
I'm telling my age right now. But yes, I was out there just writing in cursive because I just enjoyed it. Like,
interesting.
Yeah.
So then, through high school, you went to Evansville then?
I went to Evansville Bossy High School, yes.
Okay.
Well, I actually went to a couple high schools. We moved around a lot as a kid. So I started out, when I first went into high school, I was in Norcross, Georgia. And I went to a school called Norcross High School. And then I transferred to a different high school in Georgia. And then I came back home to Evansville. So my sophomore year is when I actually was in high school in Evansville and I finished out.
Do you enjoy Evansville?
I do. Evansville is one of those towns where, sadly, I don't get back as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
But it's one of those places where everybody knows you. So, if I go to Walmart or the gas station, I'm bound to see somebody like, aren't you Carmen's daughter or Larry's daughter? Oh my God, everybody knows everybody. So that always makes you feel good. And it kind of grounds me and just kind of helps when things get really hectic and loud. I can go home and just be with my family and just decompress. So
For sure. So, you were reading and writing at such a young age. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was that dream?
So, well, it's so funny. I was such a follower. I just wanted to be like my sister growing up. So she wanted to be a obstetrician, and I wanted to be a pediatrician. Like, I can't even imagine doing that now. But so that's what I wanted to be as a kid. But then as time went on, I just found myself really just wanted to be like a writer and like a journalist, like to get to the facts. Like I'm always like fact checking and like trying to find sources. And like, even if my friend's like, oh, did you hear so-and-so did this? And then I'm like, how do you know? Okay, who told you this? Well, how do they know? You know what I mean? So that just kind of was my thing. Yeah.
So I think I saw something that you were doing talent shows and a bunch of different stuff at like age 10.
Yes. So I grew up in a musical family, and my family is very large. Even my immediate family, like I told you, I have 5 siblings. But I come from a very large, close-knit family, and everybody either played sports, sang, danced, did something, to the point where when we all went over to my grandmother's house, RIP, we all just did like talent shows. We used to make up dance routines, and then sometimes if the kids were playing in another room and the grown-ups were entertaining another room, they would call us out and be like, okay, do that dance, do that routine for the company. So we would just have to like do our dances. So there was really not a shy bone in our body growing up.
And so that's where the creativity came from then, definitely.
Yes.
And then where'd you go to college?
I started out University of Evansville.
Okay.
And I studied mass comm there, and then I transferred to IUPUI and I studied journalism.
Okay, and so after college, you went into corporate,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then, so did that have anything to do with your major in college?
Absolutely not. You have it all figured out. You think you have it all figured out when you're in your early teens, early 20s, how your life is supposed to go. But for me, I became a mother at a young age. I got married at a young age. So life happened really fast for me, and it was like a whirlwind. So, I had to say, okay, I have to be a mom, I have to be a wife, I need to get a job, I need to take care of my daughter. And so banking was just one of those things where I just kind of hopped in there, and I just happened to be good at it. It was kind of like sales too. And I'm a personable person, so I got into banking and quickly just moved up in the ranks. And by the time I left banking, I had managed a book of 100 clients over on the East Coast, and multi-million-dollar accounts and Fortune 500 companies, just helping them with their business accounts and commercial accounts. So
nice.
Yeah.
And so going back to college though, what was your experience like there? Did you enjoy it?
Actually, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I never finished,
Okay.
So it was one of those things where, and I always encourage people, finish school if you can, and if it's for you, finish school, get that degree, because nobody can ever take that away from you. I would tell my daughter the same thing. However, for me at the time when I was in school, I just had so much going on, personally, and then I just never, I made straight A's. I was honor roll. I got a full scholarship to University of Evansville, which is a private Presbyterian school. And when I had the choice to go to class or not, when it's 2 degrees outside, or I'm maybe I could go up to IU and hang with my friends, So it was definitely a new world for me, and my grades suffered, and I lost my academic scholarship. So that's what made me transfer to IUPUI.
Gotcha.
And then, from there, I met a lot of great people, a lot of my closest friends. I call them lifers. I met them at IUPUI, so we're still friends to this day. So, college was great as far as the networking and meeting people, but for me, I just never have been one to be a classroom learner, and not to take that away from anybody, but I'm such a person, I just want to figure it out for myself, or who are you to tell me how to do something, so.
Yeah, I feel that. So do you think that the network was the biggest thing that you took away from college, or were there any skills that you developed, while going to class, having assignments, all that good stuff?
I think the things that distracted me in college, which ultimately led to me just withdrawing from classes, was just the strengths that helped me kind of get to where I am today, which was the networking skills that I had, just meeting new people and going out. And at the time, to maybe my mom or other people, was oh, you're just always on the scene, you're just always out doing stuff. But at the end of the day, I build relationships. So there's not too many people in the city that I don't know, or that don't know me, or that I can't just pull up and be oh, what's up? I want to go here. Tell me about this. Let me holler at you real quick. So all that socializing back in the day kind of paid off eventually.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And then so life kind of hits you fast. You get a job in banking. What was that corporate experience like for you?
Man, so in the beginning it was great. And when I say great, I say, it paid the bills. It was something that came easily to me. I was respected. But when I started to get that itch, and that was probably about when did I start writing again? It's probably back in 2010, 2011. I just felt really empty. I felt man, this is cool, and I'm a mom, and I love my baby, and all this, but I just don't feel fulfilled. So I started to journal and write children's stories for my daughter, and write a lot of poetry and poems, and that's what kind of got the groove back, my creative juices flowing. And what I did that, and then we moved, and at the time we were kind of living from check to check, so I didn't have a computer. I was writing everything down in a journal. I had 2 or 3 journals that I used to use for stories, and I lost them. So that was a major blow to me, and I went into a creative depression, so to speak, because I mean that to me was my everything. I just knew those books were going to be published. I had wrote a lot of short stories. I was working on a novel for my daughter, and when I lost that, it was kind of everything just kind of caved in, and I went back into my little bubble of go to work, go home, cook, clean, be a mom. So yeah, ultimately though, I think I'm glad I had those experiences though, because it kind of shaped me. And in the corporate world, to get back to what you were saying, it toughened me up a lot and it taught me good business skills and business structure. And when now being an entrepreneur and working with a lot of companies and a lot of other entrepreneurs, I see that lack. I see the lack of structure and a lack of just accountability sometimes, because when you run your own businesses, it's like I do my own thing. I don't answer anybody, but at the end of the day, there's still a level of professionalism, a level of structure, a level of follow-up that you should have as an entrepreneur, because that's your business. It's you. So I think it was like a rude awakening to me when I first went into business for myself, and I would take those same skills that I learned in the bank and following up, answering emails, answering texts in a timely manner. And when it wasn't being reciprocated, or when people would just fall off and say, yeah, I'll meet you at the Starbucks tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I would show up and they wouldn't come. You know what I mean? And I would be like, what the hell? You know what I mean? But you just kind of take for granted those skills that you learned and just think that everybody knows that. So that really toughened me up a little bit as far as the business acumen and okay, hey, everybody's not like that. So you got to get a tough skin and choose, be more selective with who you choose to work with. So, yeah.
So it definitely made you more professional.
Absolutely.
And so I'm super curious about this. You grew up being, a very creative, upbringing.
Yeah.
And then life hits you, you go into corporate America, and do you think you lost your creativity? You said you came back and started writing again. Was it hard to pick that back up?
It was because not only was, the craft picking it back up, because once it's in you, but I think it was the reminder of where I was mentally when I wrote those things, and I couldn't recreate that. So I really had to go to really get through and push through that block and that creative, whatever you want to call it, wall that I had built. I had to really face some dark parts of myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we all do, when we want to break through, we have to kind of look at ourselves and say, man, I got to deal with this disappointment. I got to deal with when I fell short. I got to deal with the time I may have let my daughter down. You know what I mean? Things like that. And, once you face those things and you say, okay, this doesn't define me, and nobody can ever hold that against you. So you just kind of just spread your wings and you just fly. You know what I mean? You're just like, hey, you can't tell me anything about myself that I don't already know. You can't tell me anything bad. You can't tell me anything that I done wrong, because I already know that. You know what I mean?
And when you say face it, did you have to just do some deep conversations within yourself, or did you go talk to people?
So I'm being really transparent here, and I'm really glad. Like I said, I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity, because this is actually, I interview people all the time, and I ask a lot of good questions, but nobody has ever. This is my first real interview, so I'm happy to share this. So. I had just got back into writing and blogging, and my blog was really picking up. I was still working full time. I was still a full-time mom, and it was so much so that I was blogging 4 times a day at work on my phone, and I was also trying to do my work, and I was trying to take my daughter to basketball practice. There was so much going on, and it got to the point where it was a distraction at work, and I actually got basically a verbal warning that you're on your phone. We see you posting and I was like, oh my God, because Facebook, social media, everybody can stalk you and see what you're doing.
Yeah.
So from that point, it's work got really hard for me, and it was a struggle going into work every day, because I feel like people were looking at me, and people were like, what does she think she's doing? She has this show. She's over here blogging, and MSNBC. I had really TMZ, MSNBC, all those people were sourcing some of my articles back in the day. So I was I know you guys have heard of the Shade Room and all those things. So I was the Shade Room, but I had a website.
Okay.
So I had to keep up with the latest events. But all that to say, I remember just really feeling very depressed. I was in a dark place. Not that I really wanted to hurt myself or anything like that, but I just really felt I don't know. It was hard to describe, but I remember I used to talk to my mom every day before work. That was our thing. We used to talk on the phone. She would drive in and I would drive in. And I just remember crying to her on the phone. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's I'm not happy. I dread going to work every day. I just want to drive away and just never come back. And she was like, what? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to get away. I don't want to be around. I just need a break. And she was like, okay. And I remember her praying with me in the car before I went into work that day. And it was almost it renewed my strength. And I went in with my head held high, and I knew what I was facing, because at that point, it was a lot of attention. Not that I was doing anything negative, but I think sometimes people see your potential and you don't see it yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people were coming up to me oh, you wrote that? Oh, I saw this. And then my manager would get mad, and then, people would frown at me, and people were taking screenshots of some of the pictures I posted and sending it around the office. It was it was bad. It was a bad situation. And I felt almost like attacked. But at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? This is just pushing me more towards my purpose. And so eventually, after about a year of that, I took the step and said, you know what? I'm just going to go full time with what I want to do.
So what were you blogging about?
Pretty much everything under the sun. Like I used to write. I started out just writing like inspirational posts, just talking about my life, things that I was going through at the time, and then I would talk about like current events and what's hot. You know, I would always have notifications on my phone. Like I wanted to be the first to know if something happened, so I could post about it and blog about it. And I was doing really well. That's why a lot of the major news sites were like reaching out to me, like, how'd you get this story? So side note, so funny thing. I saw when I was blogging, I saw a letter on Twitter, and I knew it was fake, but I just had to like write about it because I'm like, who makes up dumb shit like this? Because I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
So the letter was like, it was this school in Canada, and it was a racist letter, a fake racist letter written by the administrative staff saying that it was something crazy. So I wrote about the letter as if like, who would write something, who would do something dumb like this, like in a sense of like, you guys, we know this is fake, blah blah. Man, like the school reached out to me, the newspaper in Toronto reached out to me. They wanted to know where I got the letter, who did I talk to. I had people sending me messages like, I experienced this at this school, and it was a fake letter. So, you know, it was just like little stuff like that, because I would just see something and be like, what? And I would just write about it, and people would be like, oh yeah, you know, I got a story. Oh yeah, this happened to me. So it was very random, but
that's interesting. So you were writing, blogging, putting your content out there, and you were in a interesting situation when you were in your job and you were doing what you were more passionate about.
Absolutely.
And you were getting recognized for it, but then also the people that were actually paying you were trying to bring you down.
Yes.
And so you kind of had like tension pulling you back and forth.
It was a very hard space to be in.
How long did it take for you to really make that leap of faith to quit your job?
So I put myself on a 5-year plan back in late 2011, 2012. And that's actually when I started my blog. And I told myself, in 5 years, you know, I'm going to save money. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to leave my job in 5 years. And the last 2 years of that 5 years was like the worst. But I hung in there and I toughed it out. And of course, you know, I left my job 2 years ago. It's been 2 years I've been a full-time entrepreneur, and everything has not been peaches and cream like I planned out. Of course, we all know that. Success is not a straight road. It's like this.
Yep.
It's a lot of ups. It's a lot of downs, and in-betweens. But yeah, I told myself, you know, I'm going to put myself on a 5-year plan, and this is what I'm going to do. And what's so crazy, you know, I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in, like, you know, everything's connected. I respect, you know, all religions, but I'm not really into religions. I'm more of a spiritual person, and I really honor that. And so when it was time for me to leave my job, I got a lot of anxiety. I got really scared. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I have a daughter. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, my ex-husband, he's awesome. He's a great dad. I never, like, that's nothing to do with like, oh my God, I can't provide for my kid. But I was like, okay, what example am I setting for her? What example, like, people are looking at me like, what is she doing leaving this great job she's been at for all these years? Like, all the judgment. And I was so scared. And I just remember like cleaning out my room and like going through things, and I would just find little notes that I wrote to myself back in the day. So for instance, like, I was cleaning out some old purses, and on the letterhead of the company I used to work with, I had 10 goals that I had written down while I was at work. Like, these are things I want to do. And when I looked at that paper, I had done 5 of them already.
Okay.
So I was like, that's a sign. That's a sign that I'm on the right track. And then I was cleaning out my shed on my patio, and I found some old paperwork from like 2008, and it was about how to be a business manager, how to manage artists, how to interview artists. Like, it was all these things that I'm doing now.
Yeah, clues.
And it was things that I had printed out and kind of like manifested. Like, I'd written it down, I had done it, and that's why I'm a firm believer in writing it down in pen, so you can't erase it. Right? You can't change it. You can't erase it. So yeah, it was definitely an emotional roller coaster, and it still kind of is, you know.
And so, what do you do now? I mean, it's been 2 years with your entrepreneurial journey. What was that first thing that you did?
So the first thing I did, at the time, I had a show. I had an online talk show, and I was interviewing like a lot of artists and business people, entrepreneurs, sports figures.
Were those indie based or everywhere?
Indie based. I did some via like podcast interviews. Like, I did some rappers via like the recording like I redo it, or digitally or whatever. I don't know. Somebody help me with that. But I did that, and then so once I started doing that, I was supposed to get we had a new studio. So my sponsor for my old show had he's like, we're moving, we got a better studio, we're gonna be in the 120 Market Building on this floor, da da da. So I go see them, I'm like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. Oh my God, this is great. And so I'd already had like in my mind when I was leaving work, and then I get a call a few days later, and like he's like, hey, I'm sorry to break this to you, but I'm backing out of this agreement because somebody's broken in and vandalized, they stole all this equipment, and I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, what does this mean? Like, what does this mean for me? But at the time, like, I had my hands in so many different things. So I got into like managing artists and helping them with their brands and development, helping them with their social media, helping them with their image, helping them with their music sometimes, just trying to find the right sound for them. And so when that didn't fall through, when the show didn't fall through, I just did that. I just did that full time, and I brought Perk on board, who's actually from Evansville too. He's family, basically. I mean, we've known each other for a very, very long time. And I was like, you know what? Come help me. This is a dope artist by the name of T. Clef. I think he's got a lot of talent. Let's get behind this brand and push it. And we formed a whole team, and we pushed his brand and did a lot of shows, helped him travel. We traveled with him. We did a lot with him. Kind of got him on its way, and now he's doing awesome. So I was doing that, and then it got to the point where I started working with other artists, and then in the same vein, I was also working on my personal brand, because in my heart, like, I'm a journalist. Like, I love, like, I wanted to be a sports reporter. I want to talk. I want to interview people. So I was still doing that. I was still hosting events and all of that. But as far as TSM, the brand and the business, that's what we're about. We work with a lot of companies, helping them like map out what it is that you want for your brand, whether you're a public figure, whether you're a politician, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a musician. What is it? And I'm all about authenticity. You know what I mean? Don't front. Don't put on for what you think society wants, what you think that your friends want, your parents want. Like, what is it that you love about yourself? What is it that you want to showcase? So before I work with anybody, I always like really have a real transparent talk with them to see, because that's one of my big factors. It's like, okay, I'm only promoting you and pushing the real you. You know what I mean? I'm not putting on any facades. I'm not fronting. I'm not, they call it capping for anybody. So yeah.
And that's really the only way to build true long-term valuable
Absolutely.
Growth, is just be your authentic self.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And so were you, as soon as Facebook launched and Instagram, were you on those platforms, or
no,
did it take
so
you
crazy? And that's why I feel like, everything happens for a reason. But I was just telling a young lady last night that was wanting to get into hosting and all that, and like, she's like, I just want to do what you do. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, you know what? If I knew what I know now, because I'm like social media marketing certified, but I'm like behind the game. You know what I mean? So it's like, I help other people build their profiles on Instagram. I'm like, I'm not starting all over. I'm just going to do my thing. I know what I'm doing. But I didn't get on Facebook to probably like 2007, 2008. That's pretty late in my opinion, right? Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, yeah.
And then Instagram, oh my God, it was like 2012 I got on Instagram. So I don't even, like, I was a late bloomer in the social media, but as soon as I recognized the power of it, and it's like, I tell my daughter all the time, like, you can literally be anything you want to be in this world. Like, you have all the tools at your disposal. Like, all these tools that you have at your fingertips, if I had when I was your age right now, like, I would probably be a millionaire by the time I was 18 because I would know how to market it. You know what I mean? But right now, that's not my goal. Like, at this point, I'm all about purpose and serving. Because to me, I'm not money driven, and I'm not, hey, I like money. I want to make great money. But when I take on projects and when I do things, it's out of the love and the service and the purpose of it. Like, because at the end of the day, what are we doing it for?
True.
You know what I mean? So
that's deep. I like that.
Thank you.
And so it's been this journey that's up and down, right? What has been the hardest thing that you've had to overcome this past 2 years?
Wow. So as I told you, I recently lost my grandmother in October, this past October. And so she was like the matriarch of our family. She was 88 years old when she passed away. And she was like the house that we went over for all of our family gatherings. She was just like the queen of our family. You know, I'm close to my mother. Like, I love her. She raised me. But my grandmother was like everybody's heart. We call her Tutu. And so, we found out, like, she had gotten sick back in 2007, and she beat breast cancer, and then that was gone. And then recently, as of like 6 months ago, we found out she was ill again, and everybody was it was very hush hush. So I'm like, this must be pretty serious. So when I had my premiere, so I did a short film. I shot a short film like a year and a half ago, and I did the premiere right here, Pee Wee Art Gallery, which is on the 5th floor. And I had been going back and forth to visit her in Evansville, and I could kind of see the decline. But you just keep the hope alive. You're like, no, she's smiling, and she never, you would never know, except for my appearance, that she looked sick, And so the day of my premiere, the day before my premiere, we got the news that she's got about 2 weeks, and I was like, oh my God, so here I go, have to have this premiere and have to put on a smiling face. And I remember breaking down at the end and like dedicating everything to her. The next morning I rushed back to Evansville, and I was with her like literally the last 11 days of her life. Like I was there with hospice, like not only me, my family, that's how close we are. Like my mother, all of my aunts, my sister, some of my first cousins, like we surrounded her and we were there with her till she took her last breath. And that to me was the hardest thing, but it was the most beautiful thing for me.
That's what I was gonna say.
Because not everybody gets the opportunity.
Exactly.
People go really fast. You don't know. They go suddenly. And the blessing of it in those last 11 days, like I never left her side. I never went home. I went home one time and I was like, oh my God, I gotta hurry up and get back, because I just didn't want to leave her side. And when I came back, she was very alert at the time. She was talking and she was like, you know what? She's like, she was just telling people what she wanted them to do for her. Like, I want you, she told me, I want you to do my makeup. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I was thinking in my mind, like, how in the hell am I going to do this? But, that right there, I did it. And I did it after she passed, and me and my aunt went in there and we dressed her and I did her makeup and we were talking to her as if she was just right there. I never shed a tear. And sometimes you don't know how strong you are. Like I always knew I was a strong person, you know what I mean? But being faced with that and literally seeing the life slip out of somebody's eyes that you love and care about, that has basically had a hand in raising you, that right there can change a person. So I was talking to a really close friend of mine, and he was like, sometimes it's like a boomerang. You have to go to the lowest of lows, and then you just catapult.
Yep.
And so I felt like that was my boomerang moment.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I was pulled back. I was at the lowest of low. I was incognito for like I was not even in the city. I don't know if people even knew what I was going through. I wasn't even in the city for like a month because I was with her. And so, as far as the hardest thing, that was the hardest thing. But I would not change anything about that because, like I said, it was a blessing to me.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
The second thing is, I think that's just so funny how, the deepest depths that sometimes we get stuck in are our greatest blessings.
Yep.
We look back on it and we can connect the dots and see why everything happened for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's powerful. But so you had mentioned the premiere here. So what was that again?
So I wrote and produced and acted in my first ever short film.
Oh, wow.
And this I did it alongside of my team. Perk was part of the production team. I did it with Bobby Darko, who's a videographer that I've worked with other artists and on several projects. And I remember we were working on another project for another client. And I was just like, you know what? I have this really dope idea for a photo shoot. Like, I just want this really Afrocentric, ethnic photo shoot. Like, this powerful woman who's, like, all garbed up, and she's got stuff on, and she's, like, a queen. And he was like, you know what? He's like, that would be, like, a dope short film. I'm like, it would be. And I'm one of those people, like, once I get an idea, immediately it starts. So from like 30 days after we started talking about that, we had it written, we had it casted, and we shot it. And it's called Kupa, but it's Swahili for ascension. And ascension, if you guys read it, you can look up about the ascension process. It's a spiritual journey, spiritual growth. And so for me, I just basically wrote the experience off of what I experienced as a mother, as a wife at the time, as a daughter, and all the struggles trying to find my way. Because, and I'm not taking anything away from men, we know you guys do the damn thing. But women, there's so much pressure. And then being a woman of color in my industry is very, there's not a lot of us, to own an independent media company. And it's just me. I mean, I don't know too many people like that. So all those things I just wrapped up and put it on film. And, I wanted to make it more of the imagery, about the imagery and about what was unsaid than what was said. So all of the, there was probably about a total of 6 lines in the film, and it was all in Swahili, subtitles. And, it's so crazy because the film was done and edited probably about 4 or 5 months after and I didn't release it till like a year later because I sat on it for so long, and not because I didn't believe in it, but the timing of everything. And when I tell you about the perfect timing of the universe, it never fails, because that movie was released and then I lost my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and I was able to show her that film afterwards and see the tears in her eyes. I'm like, this is for you, you know? So if I would have released that film right after it was done, then that experience probably wouldn't have been as rich. So yeah, that film is very special to me, and it's actually a part of a trilogy that I'm going to finish writing and hopefully start shooting here come probably spring or summer. I've submitted it to a few film festivals, so fingers crossed on that. It was a toss up because I was like, man, I got so many, like, we sold out the premiere, so many dope reviews. People were like, this is the greatest short film I ever seen in my life. Oh my God. And I'm like, is it? But I mean, I knew it was good, but you know, people sometimes you when you're in it, you don't get it.
Yeah.
And so they were like, no, you got it. You can't release this yet. You just got to put it in. And I was like, okay, do I? So I started researching it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So it's in a few film festivals now, and I'll probably submit in a few more, probably about 2 or 3 more here in a couple months.